Welcome to Shadow Files, Secrets They Don't Want Revealed, the channel where classified truths emerge from the fog of disinformation, where declassified files reveal strategies far more cunning than simple denial, and where the line between myth and military deception dissolves into something far more calculated. If you've ever wondered why UFO sightings spiked during the Cold War, why pilots saw flying saucers over Nevada, or why the government both mocked and secretly studied these reports, then you're about to uncover one of the most sophisticated psychological operations in American history: the CIA's deliberate use of UFO mythology to hide its most advanced weapons. But this is not just a story about airplanes and cover-ups. It is a story about perception management, cultural engineering, and the weaponization of belief itself. It is about how a government, facing existential threat, chose to manipulate not only its enemies, but its own citizens, by feeding them a fantasy so absurd, so ridiculed, that no serious investigator would dare look beneath it. And in doing so, they buried something far more real, a pattern of aerial phenomena that even today defies explanation.
The origins of this deception trace back to a single, pivotal moment in 1952, a summer of panic, radar ghosts, and flying discovered the height of American power.
On the night of July 19, 1952, air traffic controllers at Washington National Airport noticed strange blips on their radar screens. The objects moved erratically, accelerated beyond known aircraft capabilities, and hovered silently over the Capitol Dome. Within hours, jet interceptors were scrambled from Andrews Air Force Base. Pilots reported seeing bright, orange-red lights that vanished the moment they approached. The next weekend, it happened again, this time with even more intensity. Radar stations across the D.C. area tracked multiple objects performing impossible maneuvers. The press exploded. Headlines screamed, "Saucers swarm over White House." The public was terrified. Congress demanded answers. President Truman reportedly asked, "Are we being invaded?" The Air Force scrambled to respond. Within days, they held a press conference blaming the sightings on a temperature inversion, a meteorological phenomenon that could, they claimed, cause radar mirages. But internal memos tell a different story. General Charles P. Cabell, Deputy Chief of Staff for Intelligence, wrote in a classified report, "The radar returns were solid, consistent, and corroborated by visual sightings. This was not weather." Yet the official line held, it was all a mistake. And thus began the first major act of UFO disinformation, not to hide aliens, but to hide something far more dangerous: the fact that U.S. airspace could be penetrated at will by unknown entities, whether foreign or domestic. But the real turning point came just months later, in early 1953, when the CIA convened a secret panel of scientists, psychologists, and intelligence officers at the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. Known as the Robertson Panel, named after physicist Howard P. Robertson, this group was tasked with one question: is the UFO phenomenon a threat to national security? Their conclusion, declassified decades later, was chilling in its pragmatism. Yes, UFOs were a threat, not because they were extraterrestrial, but because public obsession with them could clog communication channels during a real crisis, and because foreign adversaries could exploit the hysteria for psychological warfare. But their recommended solution was even more audacious: launch a campaign of mass ridicule and media manipulation to discredit UFO witnesses and reduce public interest. In a now infamous internal memo dated January 1953, the CIA outlined the strategy. The less the public knows about actual U.S. reconnaissance capabilities, the better. Encouraging the flying saucer narrative as a product of mass hysteria or extraterrestrial origin serves to deflect attention from legitimate security concerns. Media outlets should be encouraged to portray UFO believers as crackpots. This wasn't denial. This was active myth-making. And it worked, spectacularly. At the same time, Lockheed Skunk Works was developing the U-2 spy plane under total secrecy. Funded by the CIA and flown by Air Force pilots under civilian cover, the U-2 could cruise at 70,000 feet, far above any Soviet fighter or radar of the era. But at dawn and dusk, its silver wings would catch the sun while the ground below was in darkness, creating the illusion of a glowing, silent disk. Pilots on commercial flights, amateur astronomers, and even military radar operators began reporting flying saucers over Nevada, California, and the Midwest. Instead of issuing denials that might draw attention to a secret program, the CIA let the alien theory flourish. When a U-2 was spotted over Dayton, Ohio, in 1955, local newspapers ran stories about Martian visitors. The CIA did nothing to correct them. In fact, internal correspondence shows that CIA officers discouraged Air Force investigators from tracing UFO reports back to U-2 flight paths. This pattern repeated with every new black aircraft. When the State Route 71 Blackbird entered service in 1966, flying at Mach 3.3 and 85,000 feet, it too generated UFO reports. Pilots described a black wedge-shaped object moving faster than sound without a sonic boom, due to its extreme altitude. Again, the government said nothing. Even when the Blackbird was declassified in the 1990s, former pilots admitted they'd been briefed. If anyone asks about UFOs, change the subject. But here's the critical twist that most analyses miss. Not all UFOs were American. Declassified Air Force, Navy, and FAA records from the 1950s through the 2000s contain hundreds of cases that cannot be explained by secret aircraft, balloons, or atmospheric phenomena, even after accounting for known black projects. These are not grainy photos or blurry videos. These are radar visual tracks confirmed by multiple sensors, trained observers, and military command centers. Take the 1967 Malmstrom Air Force Base incident in Montana. On March 16, multiple airmen observed a red, oval-shaped object hovering silently over a field of Minuteman ICBM silos. Simultaneously, 10 nuclear missiles went offline, their targeting systems disabled. Captain Eric Carlson, the launch control officer, later testified, "The missiles were in no-go status. We couldn't launch them. The object left, and within minutes, the systems came back online." The Air Force classified the event as inexplicable and sealed the files for decades. Then there's the 1980 Rendlesham Forest incident in Suffolk, England, often called Britain's Roswell. U.S. Air Force personnel from RAF Woodbridge reported a triangular craft landing in the woods, emitting pulsating lights and intense heat. Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt filed an official memo, now declassified, and even recorded an audio log on the scene stating, "This is the most puzzling thing I've ever seen in my life." Radiation readings spiked. Ground impressions were found. Yet the U.S. government dismissed it as a lighthouse and a downed satellite, despite the lighthouse being miles away and no satellite re-entering that night. Fast forward to 2004, off the coast of San Diego. The USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group detected multiple anomalous objects on radar descending from 80,000 feet at hypersonic speeds. Commander David Fravor, a decorated Navy pilot with 18 years of experience, was scrambled to investigate. What he saw defied physics: a titanium-white, oblong tic-tac-shaped object, 40 feet long, hovering 50 feet above the ocean with no wings, no exhaust, no visible propulsion. As his F/A-18 approached, the object accelerated instantly to the horizon, covering 50 miles in under 2 seconds. "It broke every law of aerodynamics I know," Fravor later said. The object was tracked on ship radar, captured on infrared video, and corroborated by multiple pilots and radar operators. In 2017, the Pentagon confirmed the authenticity of the footage. In 2020, it released 2 more videos, Gimbal and Go Fast, showing similar objects exhibiting instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic velocities without sonic booms, and transmedium travel, air to water. Officially, they're labeled unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. Unofficially, senior Pentagon officials have admitted these are not U.S. technology. So why didn't the disinformation campaign end with the Cold War? Because the threat evolved. In the 1990s and 2000s, new black projects emerged: hypersonic drones, stealth cruise missiles, and experimental propulsion systems like DARPA's Aurora program, allegedly capable of Mach 5+ flight. These too generated UFO reports. But something else happened. Foreign UAPs began appearing in sensitive airspace. Declassified documents from the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP, a $22 million Pentagon program active from 2007 to 2012, reveal that the U.S. government has been seriously studying UAPs for years. Leaked files include sketches of non-terrestrial craft, references to materials with isotopic ratios not found on Earth, and reports of UAPs interfering with nuclear facilities. Even more telling, in 2023, Congress passed the National Defense Authorization Act, which includes provisions requiring military personnel to report UAP encounters without fear of retaliation, and mandates the creation of a UAP records collection at the National Archives. Why? Because the sightings haven't stopped, they've increased. In 2021 alone, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence reported 144 UAP incidents, with 18 exhibiting unusual flight characteristics. The CIA's original disinformation campaign succeeded beyond its wildest dreams. By flooding the UFO narrative with hoaxes, misidentifications, and ridicule, it buried the real anomalies under layers of skepticism. Today, when a Navy pilot reports a UAP, the public still asks, is it aliens? Not is it a Russian drone? Or is it a breakthrough in physics? But the truth is more complex. Some UFOs were ours. Some may be theirs, whether they are foreign adversaries, or something beyond our current understanding. And the government strategy has always been the same: control the story, obscure the evidence, and let the myth do the work. Consider this: in 2021, the CIA declassified dozens of Cold War-era UFO documents, not to reveal the truth, but to reinforce the narrative that all UFOs were misidentified spy planes. Yet even in those files, there are cases marked unresolved. Cases with radar confirmation. Cases with multiple witnesses. Cases that don't fit the U2 or Blackbird profile.
The ultimate irony?
The alien myth, created as a smokescreen, may have accidentally prepared the public for the real possibility of non-human intelligence. By normalizing the idea of flying saucers, the CIA made it easier to later disclose UAPs without triggering mass panic. The cover-up became the cover. As we move into an era of official UAP disclosure, one question remains: how much of what we've been told about UFOs was a lie, and how much was a cover for something even more extraordinary? The sky is not empty. It never was. And the shadows above US may hold not just our secrets, but theirs. If this investigation into the CIA's UFO disinformation campaign has reshaped your understanding of the sky above us, then don't let the truth stay hidden. Like this video to support our mission of exposing what they don't want revealed. Share it with someone who still thinks UFOs are just swamp gas. And leave a comment below: do you believe the alien myth was purely a smokescreen, or is there a kernel of truth beneath the deception? Your voice helps pierce the veil. Because in the shadows of the sky, not everything that flies is ours, and not everything they've told us is true.